So, Alex,
Hello.
thank you for joining this vlog.
Yeah?
I'm going to tell everybody who's watching that walking in the park in the rain was your idea.
It's an English thing to do, right?
We're blending London and New York all in one. So just before this, we're talking about GoPros, and we're recording this on a GoPro. It's going to be a slightly jittery, weird video, but I love it. And how they made it easier for people to actually engage with the process of editing videos by using AI to look for the parts of the clip that are most interesting. What's the equivalent in legal?
Wow. Are you kind of here on a kind of Gen AI productivity thing?
What, Gen AI is a J-E-N?
J-E-N. I don't know, wow. What? Splicing bits of content together, interesting things. I mean, it's potentially your kind of endpoint for something like search recommendations. You know, actually the bit where it says, you know, I'm looking at this, here's some other things similar or interesting or dare I say it, serendipitous.
Oh, I'm going to use that word. I heard another really good term this week. I'm going to use serendipitous later in this conversation. And the term was ambient AI.
I'm not clever enough to understand.
Oh, come on, it's brilliant. So the idea behind ambient AI is everyone's making these generative AI features front and center.
Yeah.
Like you go in, here's a chatbot. You want someone to write an email for you? Here we go.
Yeah.
And it's really trying to replace tasks that humans are doing. Whereas ambient AI is like, okay,
in the background.
Right, what do you do and how do we support you do those things better? Which I think is a much better way of deploying features, but much less marketable, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, you know, even in some boring stuff, it's almost like suggested text.
Yeah.
You know like that bit where you go into something, like, I don't know, there's a form, and it's got some grey text behind, and then you can kind of accept it or not, but you don't feel offended by it.
Right.
But I don't overly use that, because there's someone that's in Google as well, isn't it? When you go into Google and it kind of starts writing a sentence. I'm not sure how many times I actually accept that sentence, but
1 in 5. maybe.
Thanks, bye. Nice, thank you for the email.
Best regards, Horace. Thank you for saving me those 20 characters.
Congratulations on your new job.
I think it's really funny you mentioned that, because the next word predictor is what we started talking about a year ago. Maybe not you and me, but a lot of people were like, GPT is just the next word predictor. And for the last 12 months, I think a lot of people are kind of going around and asking, well, is it more than that? Is it more intelligent than the next word predictor? And I think the jury is still out. But fundamentally, that's what the technology is doing. And everyone right now in the legal tech space is looking at how do you make this fundamentally next word predictor more accurate, more kind of useful for people. I don't know if you can.
I don't know, because you're trying to, again, you're probably trying to do something that you wanted to do with search, which is find the exact parts of things to suggest.
Right.
I do kind of worry a little bit with the reordering thing. You know, in essence, it's found the potential thing you need if you're using some kind of RAG-based piece, and then you decide to just go and generate some brand new text because of that, when you've already got the thing that you potentially needed. But then, I don't know, you still, as a human, you'd still then have to go through that 5 things you brought out and turn it into a thing that you put into somewhere.
Right.
Which sometimes is annoying, but other times that diversity of information is what you need.
I agree.
And you need to understand it and make your choice, not take what's been put in front of you without necessarily knowing why.
I think it comes back down to this idea of what's the problem you're trying to solve, right? And I keep saying this in every second conversation I have, but we have this issue right now where whenever someone comes across any challenge, oh, Gen AI. And to the point about search and retrieval and giving people useful information. I mean, both you and I are sort of in this line of business at different levels of information. And what I'm seeing is there's a pushback against inconsistency at the moment. where people have been playing with this stuff for the last 12 months. And I was on a demo call probably like a month ago, and someone said to me, does every user get the exact same outputs? And the answer was,
It depends.
Yeah, what's your user profile, what's your preferences? But the text is never generated from scratch. We're not just making it up. And I think that level of like truth and grounding, I think going to reverse engineer that into a generative model is a bit silly.
But it is like when you see someone pitch it, potentially in a different industry.
Right.
And then you see people going, well, it's creative.
Right.
And everyone goes, it's creative, that's great. And then everyone goes, it's amazing, because I do want 5 different options for something, because I'm trying to come up with an interesting way to respond to that email, or an interesting document based on some text.
Or I'm designing a website and I need 5 different layouts.
But the bit for me is, this is legal, right?
Yeah.
So what are the bits which are truly creative, and which are the bits which have to be truly regulatorily, legislatively, case-led, accurate?
Right, exactly. I heard a really good story. I won't name any names, but someone pitched to a company, hey, we've got this Gen AI tool that can help you write SEC filings. And they pitched to the CFO, and it's like, look, I can just type in this description, here's your quarterly filing, look, it just generated from scratch, look how good that looks. And the CFO's response was, so now I've got to read that, and can you tell me what changed from the last one? They're like, no, but it's followed your instructions. And the CFO's response was, why the F do I want to read a whole filing when I know which 3 numbers I have to change from the last one?
Yeah, I mean, it's task-led, right?
So it's an interesting world that we live in. But I want to ask you, like, 2024, we've been through this whole hype of 2023. What are you most excited about?
I'm most excited probably on a few things. One, the accuracy conversation that's going to emerge. We've had our fun, but I hear the lawyer testing spreadsheets are emerging now as people are starting to ask questions and react by actually saying, is this accurate or not? So I think that's good, because I think that gives us what do we use it for. And then I think the other thing is it going into the stack. So there is a stack, right? There's a stack which is search, text, graph. All these different technologies that solve a problem, and most solutions are not one thing. I won't do the analogy with blockchain, because blockchain.
Please do.
But blockchain was it became a thing, it became a religion as a piece of technology, rather than let itself go into the stack. And whilst it was okay last year for Gen AI to do that, it's not a thing. It needs to go in the stack. And in the stack, you do all this different stuff. So even like the RAG stuff is search, right? It's a type of search. So that's exciting what you can do with that, but it's not necessarily generating. You can ground stuff in a graph. But you have to build that first. And that's done by hard work and information architecture and data warehouses and
time and effort
and purpose. So I think we're going into the stacks, the interesting piece, right? And then, as you said a bit earlier, it's going to be, where do you bring it out? The moment is you have to see it. It has to bounce in front of you and tide. But as you said, what happens if it becomes a bit more ambient and goes into the background? And does a task and you just don't know why.
And in a way, it may not matter, but in other ways, like, it's really important to reveal that information to your users, because it is an industry that relies on having accurate information.
And that's a really good point, because the metaphor at the moment is this chat metaphor. Right? But when you start getting into it, people want the results behind that. So now you're kind of heading back towards maybe the chat answery interface as the starting point. But you need to then start to bring in things like results pages.
You have to build like.
And here are the things that show you why. And now you're back into things like results, filters, previews, and then choice, right? Because I think that's the underlying piece that you said was you need to make choices about information. So how do you have a more serendipitous interface.
You
You know,
brought it back.
like a like a Netflix or something like that,
Yeah, yeah.
where there's choice rather than this is the answer. Believe it or not believe it.
Yep.
Trust it, not trust it.
Right. And even if you use like the Gen AI is your very talented paralegal sort of argument. Even with the best paralegal in the world, you're still going to go to them and say, where did you get this from? Show me your references, show me your citations.
And also that person's trying to learn, right?
Yep.
So how do you learn if you don't know why or what choices you have?
Yeah.
But, you know, the way the world is, less of that, right? From education through to how we interact with things. Are we being made dumber, or are we less inquisitive?
Philosophically, maybe we're just busier with more things to do.
But isn't this Gen AI going to give me loads of free time? I thought I'm going to get my universal salary next year.
I'm hoping for that. I've already picked out a bungalow on the beach somewhere.
Not sure it's quite as much as you think it's going to be.
I hear Thailand's really cheap. Right? I mean, look, I think it's going to be a really interesting year, and thank you for joining me on this walk and chat.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh,
cheers. Good to see you in New York soon again.
Yeah, and I wish I had taken a photo of our coffee cups because I love the spelling of your name now.